You ever lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the house you're in is still yours? Not the mortgage, not the deed, but the feeling like the walls know you, like the floorboards creak in a way that says you belong. That feeling was gone by the time I woke up at 2:17 a.m., my heart pounding like it knew something I didn't. No crash, no scream, just a silence so sharp it cut. Lena was already up, her silhouette ablaze against the moonlight slanting through the blinds. She wasn't moving, wasn't breathing loud, just sitting there, phone in hand, the glow carving shadows across her face. "Jack," she whispered. The motion sensor didn't trip. Her voice wasn't scared. It was clinical, like she was reading a battlefield report. I rolled out of bed, my feet hitting the cold hardwood, still half caught in a dream about grilling burgers for the kids. "What do you mean?" I mumbled, rubbing my eyes. Lena tilted her phone toward me. The backyard camera feed was black. Not static, not frozen, just a void, like someone had painted over the lens with night. "It's offline," she said, her thumb hovering over the screen like she could will it back to life. "The others are fine. Just this one." I stumbled to the alarm panel by the bedroom door, my socks snagging on the rug. All green. Locks engaged. Sensors humming. But the air felt wrong, heavy, like it was waiting for permission to move. Lena was already up, pulling on her boots, the black ones, tactical, the ones she hadn't touched since Mia was born. "Stay here," she said, her voice a command, not a request. I didn't listen. I never do when it's about her. The hallway was dark, the kind of dark that makes you question your own house. Mia's room was first. She was curled under her blanket, her rocket schematics pinned to the wall, glowing faintly under the star-shaped nightlight. Theo was next, sprawled across his bed, one sock missing, his ninja mask crumpled on the floor like a defeated villain. Safe. My chest loosened, but Lena wasn't checking the kids. She was at the window, her breath fogging the glass, staring into the backyard. "Jack," she said, her voice low, "the birdhouse is gone." I squinted, my eyes adjusting to the dim. The feeder Mia built for her science fair, the one she painted with constellations, wasn't there. Just the post, there, swaying like it was mocking us. "Maybe it fell?" I said, knowing it was a weak guess. Lena didn't dignify it with a response. She grabbed her flashlight, the one with the grip worn smooth from years of use, and headed downstairs. Outside, the night was too quiet. No crickets, no distant hum of traffic, just our footsteps crunching on the frost-kissed grass. The post stood alone, the cut at its base clean, surgical, like someone had taken a laser to it. Lena knelt, her fingers tracing the edge. "This wasn't random," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This was a message." I followed her gaze to the mailbox, its red flag up, defiant, at 2 a.m. My stomach twisted. I opened it, the hinges creaking louder than they should have. Inside, a single Polaroid, grainy, black and white, showing our backyard with the birdhouse still there, taken from an angle too high to be a neighbor's drone. On the back, in tight, mechanical script, "You're not invisible." I handed it to Lena, my fingers numb. Her face didn't change, but her jaw tightened, the kind of tell she'd never admit to. "This is him," she said, folding the photo precisely, like it was evidence. "Who?" I asked, my voice cracking. She didn't answer, just turned back to the house, her boots leaving faint prints in the dew, each step a declaration. Back inside, Lena didn't sit. She paced, slow, deliberate, like she was mapping the room in her head. I locked the door, checked it twice, then 3 times, my hands shaking like I'd chugged too much coffee. "Lena, talk to me," I said, leaning against the counter. She stopped, looked at me, her eyes like a storm held back by a dam. "Victor Crane," she said finally. "Ex-CIA, same unit as me. Disavowed after Kabul. He thinks I sold him out." I blinked, trying to process. Lena hadn't talked about her CIA days in years. Not since she traded field ops for firewalls and diapers. Why now? I asked. She didn't answer, just walked to the garage, her office, a corner with a folding table, a laptop, and a safe I'd never seen her open. The door clicked shut behind her, and I was left standing there, the Polaroid's weight burning a hole in my pocket. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the couch, the TV off, listening to the house breathe. Every creak was a footstep, every shadow a threat. I thought about Mia, how she'd cried when her birdhouse won second place because she wanted first. I thought about Theo, how he'd spent a week practicing ninja rolls after watching a samurai movie. I thought about Lena, the woman who could dismantle a server or a man with the same precision, and how I'd never really known her until she stopped pretending to be just a mom. The clock ticked past 4 a.m., and I wondered if this was how it felt to lose your home, not to fire, not to flood, but to something you couldn't see. By morning, the HOA notice arrived, hand-delivered, slid under the door like a taunt. Crisp envelope, no postmark, just bold text, * unauthorized modification to exterior property. Birdhouse violates Article 7, Section C, 2. Remove immediately or face fines. * Mia found it first, her cereal spoon frozen mid-bite. They're mad about my birdhouse, she asked, her voice small but sharp, like she was already calculating. I tried to laugh, to make it light. Guess it's too cool for Willow Creek. But my eyes were on Lena, standing at the kitchen counter, the Polaroid next to her coffee, her fingers tapping a rhythm only she understood. This isn't about the birdhouse, she said, her voice low, like she was talking to the photo, not us. It's about control. That's when Nate knocked. Nate, our neighbor, ex-Marine, always in flannel, always smelling like sawdust and Red Bull. He stood on the porch, thermos in hand, his eyes flicking to the mailbox like he knew something was off. You guys okay? He asked, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. Heard about the birdhouse drama. HOA's circling. Lena nodded, her posture shifting, not relaxed, but open, like she was sizing him up. You see anything last night? She asked, her tone casual but loaded. Nate shrugged, leaning against the doorframe. Just Karen's car idling at 1 a.m., probably writing citations in her sleep. Karen. The HOA queen. Pajamas pressed, clipboard glued to her hand, smile like a knife. I'd always thought she was just petty. Lena's face said she was more. Keep an eye out, Lena told Nate, and he nodded, like he'd already signed up for the job. I watched Nate leave, his truck rumbling down the street, and felt the house settle around us, quieter than it should have been. Mia went to her room, sketching rockets like nothing had happened. Theo practiced ninja kicks in the living room, oblivious. But Lena was already in the garage, the door cracked just enough for me to see her open the safe. Inside, a black folder, no label, just wait. She pulled out a photo, stared at it like it was a ghost. I didn't ask what it was. I wasn't ready for the answer. But I knew one thing. Whatever Victor Crane wanted, he wasn't just coming for Lena. He was coming for all of us. The morning after the birdhouse vanished, the house felt like it was holding its breath. I barely slept, my eyes burning from staring at the ceiling, replaying the Polaroid's jagged script. You're not invisible. Lena was already up, moving through the kitchen like a ghost, her coffee untouched, the black folder from the safe spread across the counter. Mia and Theo were at the table, Mia sketching a rocket with furious precision, Theo stabbing his cereal with a spoon, his ninja mask pulled over one eye. The HOA notice sat between them, its bold text screaming violation. I wanted to burn it, but Lena treated it like evidence, her fingers tracing the edges as if it held a code. Kids, finish up, I said, my voice thinner than I meant. Mia didn't look up. They're watching us, aren't they? She asked, her pencil scratching a thruster's curve. Theo tilted his head, mask slipping. Like ninjas? I forced a smile. More like nosy neighbors. But my eyes were on Lena, who hadn't spoken since dawn. She was staring out the window, not at the backyard, but at the street where Karen's car idled, her silhouette rigid behind the wheel. "She's early," Lena muttered, her voice low, like she was naming a target. That's when Mia found the first lens. She was on the porch, tying her sneakers for school, when she froze, her fingers hovering over the light fixture. "Dad," she called, her voice steady but sharp, "this isn't a screw." I jogged out, Lena behind me, her boots silent on the wood. Mia held up a tiny metal disc, no bigger than a dime, glinting in the sun. Lena snatched it, her eyes narrowing. "Military grade," she said, cracking it open with a pocket knife. No wires, no brand, just a chip nestled in a casing built to survive a blast. "He's mapping us," she said, her voice flat, like she was reading a weather report. Mia's face didn't change, but her hands shook as she stuffed them in her pockets. Theo peeked from the door. "Is it a spy camera? Like in movies?" Lena nodded, not softening it. "Exactly like that. We swept the house." Lena led, her flashlight beam cutting through the morning haze. I carried a screwdriver, feeling useless but determined. Theo trailed, his ninja mask now a badge of purpose. Mia stayed close, her war log open, sketching each find. By noon, we had 4 lenses, one in the mailbox hinge, one in a fake rock by the driveway, one in Theo's soccer ball deflated, stitched back up like a wound, and one in the gutter, angled to catch the front door. Theo cried when we cut his ball open, his small fists clenched. "Why is someone watching me?" he asked, his voice breaking. I hugged him, my throat tight. "It's a mistake, buddy." Lena didn't lie. She knelt, looked him in the eye. "They're scared of us," she said. "And they should be." Theo nodded, wiping his nose, and slipped his mask back on. The lenses changed everything. The house wasn't just walls anymore. It was a stage, every move scripted for an audience we couldn't see. I caught myself checking corners, pausing before windows, wondering if Victor Crane was watching me pour coffee or kiss Lena goodbye. Mia stopped humming while she worked, her sketches now dotted with notes. Mailbox cam, 45 degrees angle, blind spot at 3 p.m. Theo started ninja patrols, creeping around with a flashlight, whispering clear like he'd seen in a game. Lena didn't discourage it. "They're learning," she told me later, her voice half proud, half haunted. That afternoon, I saw Mr. Delaney, the retiree 2 doors down, watering his lawn. He'd always waved, offered to grab our mail when we were out of town. Today, he didn't look up. I raised a hand, called "Morning." He froze, his hose dribbling, then turned away, disappearing behind his garage. My gut twisted. "Lena," I said when I got back, "Delaney's acting weird." She didn't look surprised. "He's not the only one," she said, nodding toward the street. Karen's car was gone, but a new one sat at the corner, a gray sedan, no plates, windows tinted too dark for Willow Creek. "Victor's shadow," Lena said, her fingers tapping the counter. "He's not working alone." That night, in the garage, Lena opened the black folder. I stood in the doorway, the air thick with motor oil and tension. She pulled out a photo, older, creased, showing her in a tactical vest, desert dust on her face. Next to her, Victor Crane, tall, lean, eyes like a predator's, a faint smirk curling his lip. "Cobble," she said, her voice distant, like she was speaking from another life. He was my shadow then. Watched my 6, saved my life once. But he was reckless, always chasing glory over protocol. When it went wrong, he blamed me. I stepped closer, the photo's weight pulling me in. "What happened?" She folded it away, her hands steady but her eyes far off. "He broke cover, compromised the op. I called the evac. He didn't make it out clean. They disavowed him, and he swore I'd pay." She looked at me, her voice hardening. "He's not just here for revenge, Jack. He's rewriting the story." I didn't sleep. The lenses were gone, crushed under Lena's boot, but their ghosts lingered. I thought about Mia, how she'd stopped smiling at breakfast, her pencil now a weapon. I thought about Theo, his ninja mask a shield against a world he didn't understand. I thought about Lena, the woman who'd traded covert ops for carpools, now forced back into a war she'd buried. The HO notice was still on the counter, its text a taunt. Remove immediately. I wanted to tear it up, but Lena had taped it to the folder, a piece of the puzzle. Outside, the street was too quiet, the gray sedan still parked, its tinted windows swallowing the moonlight. I checked the locks, then checked them again. The house wasn't ours anymore. It was Victor's. The lenses were just the start. By the third day, our house wasn't a home, it was a perimeter. Lena turned the garage into a command center, the folding table now a war map, blueprints of Willow Creek, red pins marking camera sites, a laptop running encrypted scans. She moved like she'd never left the field, her hands steady, her eyes scanning angles I didn't see. I watched her tape a thermal scope to the wall, its lens glinting like a predator's eye. "What's the plan?" I asked, my voice rough from too little sleep. She didn't look up. "We don't wait for him to hit again. We make him chase." Nate showed up at noon, his truck coughing smoke, a crate in the bed. "Borrowed some gear," he said, grinning like he hadn't just smuggled military surplus into our suburb. Inside, motion sensors, tripwires, a signal jammer that looked like it belonged in a bunker. "Just from the store," he said, winking. Lena didn't question it. She unpacked each piece, her fingers moving like they'd memorized the dance. Mia watched, her war log open, sketching the jammer's curves. Theo bounced on his toes, calling it ninja tech. I felt like a bystander in my own life, holding a screwdriver while Lena and Nate wired the backyard like a fortress. That afternoon, I went to confront Karen. I'd had enough of her notices, her idling car, her shark smile. Her house was pristine, lawn clipped to HOA perfection, her mailbox flagged down like a surrender. I knocked, my pulse loud in my ears. She opened the door, clipboard in hand, her pajama set pressed like armor. "Jack," she said, her voice syrupy, "what's this about?" I held up the latest notice, asterisk noncompliant mailbox height asterisk, and let it drop. "This stops now," I said. Her eyes flicked to the street, then back. "Rules keep us safe," she said, her smile tightening. "You'd understand if you followed them." I stepped closer. "Who's the new guy at your meetings?" Tall, quiet, always in a cap. Her face froze, just for a second, then smoothed. "I don't know what you mean," she said, shutting the door. I stood there, the click echoing, my hands balled into fists. Back home, Lena was calibrating sensors, her focus absolute. I told her about Karen, the way her eyes betrayed her. "She's a proxy," Lena said, not looking up. "Victor's using her to push us." I slammed my hand on the table, the tools rattling. "Why aren't you telling me everything?" "Who is this guy?" Lena stopped, her hands hovering over a wire. "You want the truth," she said, her voice low. "Victor wasn't just my shadow. He was my partner. We ran ops together, shared intel, shared blood. When he broke, I didn't just leave him. I reported him. That's why he's here." I stared, the air heavy. "You didn't think to tell me?" She looked at me, her eyes raw. "I thought I could bury it. I was wrong." That night, Mia came to me, her war log clutched to her chest. "Dad," she said, her voice small, "what if Mom can't stop him?" I hugged her, my throat tight. "She will," I said, but my mind was on Lena's words, the weight of a past she'd hidden. Theo overheard, his ninja mask on, his flashlight sweeping the room. "Mom's a superhero," he said, like it was fact. I wanted to believe him, but the lenses were still out there, somewhere, watching. The gray sedan hadn't moved, its windows a void. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena was in the garage alone, her flashlight beam cutting through the dark. I didn't disturb her. Some wars you fight alone, even when you're married. The next morning, a new notice arrived, hand-delivered, no envelope, just pinned to the mailbox with a thumbtack. Asterisk excessive light pollution. Remove exterior fixtures. Asterisk Lena read it, her face unreadable, then taped it to her map. He's tightening the noose, she said. I looked at Mia, sketching silently, and Theo, practicing ninja rolls. They were adapting, but at what cost? I thought about Karen's frozen face, Delaney's avoidance, the sedan's silent vigil. Willow Creek wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It was a chessboard, and we were the pawns Victor Crane was moving. The power cut on the fifth night, sharp and surgical, like someone flipped a switch on our lives. Not the whole street, just our house, no hum of the fridge, no glow from the alarm panel, just darkness so thick it pressed against my chest. I woke with a jolt, the silence louder than any alarm. Lena was already up, her silhouette a shadow among shadows, her suppressed pistol glinting in the moonlight. I hadn't seen it since she'd locked it away after Theo's birth, its weight a reminder of the life she'd left. Stay with the kids, she said, her voice a blade. I grabbed a baseball bat instead, my hands slick with sweat, and followed her to the basement. The breaker box was in the corner, a gray slab we'd ignored for years. Lena's flashlight beam hit it, steady, unyielding. It wasn't tripped. It was rewired, the cables spliced with precision, each cut clean as a surgeon's. This is Victor, she said, her voice flat, like she was naming a storm. She knelt, her fingers tracing the wires, and found a metal shard wedged in the panel, etched with a single word. Clarity. She pocketed it, her face unreadable, but I saw her shoulders tense, a crack in her armor. He's escalating, she said. This is his foreplay. We checked the kids. Mia was awake, sitting on her bed, her war log open, her flashlight beam trembling. I heard it go quiet, she said, her voice steady but her eyes wide. Theo was curled in his closet, ninja mask on, clutching a plastic sword. The ninjas came, he whispered. I hugged them both, my heart pounding, but Lena was already moving, sweeping the house with her pistol raised, her steps silent on the hardwood. The sensors Nate installed were dead, their lights dark. The cameras were offline, their feeds a void. The house wasn't just dark, it was blind. Outside, the street was too still. The gray sedan was gone, but Karen's car was back, idling 2 houses down, its exhaust curling like a signal. Lena's eyes locked on it, her grip tightening on the pistol. She's his eyes, she said. I wanted to storm over, drag Karen out, demand answers. Lena grabbed my arm, her fingers iron. Not yet, she said. He wants you to react. Don't give him the win. I nodded, but my blood was boiling, the bat heavy in my hand. Back inside, Lena lit candles, their flicker casting shadows that danced like threats. Mia and Theo sat on the couch, Mia sketching the breaker box from memory, Theo whispering ninja strategies to his sword. I watched Lena, her face lit by the flame, and saw something I hadn't before, fear, not for herself, but for us. What's next? I asked, my voice low. She didn't answer, just opened her laptop, powered by a battery pack, and pulled up a map of Willow Creek. He's testing our response time, she said. This wasn't a strike. It was a probe. That's when Theo found the knife. It was under the welcome mat, a folding blade, black, tactical, its edge honed to a whisper. A note was taped to it, block print. Cut through the noise, Theo held it up, his small hands steady, his mask hiding his fear. Is this for ninjas? He asked. Lena took it, her movements slow, deliberate. It's for me, she said, her voice a mix of steel and sorrow. She turned the blade over, her fingers tracing the grip, and I saw her slip away, back to a memory she hadn't shared. Cobble, she said, almost to herself. He left one like this after the op went bad. Said it was my fault for not seeing the trap. I stepped closer. What trap? She looked at me, her eyes distant. The one that cost him everything. The power stayed off until dawn, the utility company claiming a local fault. Lena didn't buy it. She rewired the breaker herself, her hands moving like they'd never forgotten the field. Mia watched, her war log now a catalog of threats. Knife, 5-inch blade, left 0200. Theo drew the knife in his sketchbook, labeling it Ninja Trap. I couldn't shake the image of Lena holding it, her face a mask of control hiding a storm. The house was ours again, but only on the surface. Victor's shadow was everywhere, in the dark, in the silence, in the knife's cold edge. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena didn't sleep. She sat by the window, the knife on the table, waiting for the next move. The HOA's online group was a cesspool of petty complaints, wrong trash bin colors, unapproved fence paint, but on the 6th day it turned sinister. Mia found the post while sneaking onto my phone during breakfast, her fingers flying across the screen. "Dad," she said, her voice sharp, "look at this." She shoved the phone at me, her war log open beside her cereal. The post was from Willow Creek resident 22, timestamped 3 a.m., * concerned about recent disturbances. Certain residents may have histories incompatible with community safety. Background checks advised. * attached was a blurry photo of Lena at the mailbox, taken from across the street, her face shadowed but unmistakable. The comments were worse. * heard she's ex-military. Unstable. * why's she always sneaking around at night? I slammed the phone down, my coffee sloshing. "This is bullshit," I said, louder than I meant. Mia didn't flinch. Theo peeked over, his ninja mask askew. "Is Mom in trouble?" he asked. I shook my head, but my gut said otherwise. Lena read the post, her face a wall. "Disinformation," she said, her voice clinical. "Victor's planting seeds." She deleted the post, her fingers steady, but I saw her pause, her thumb hovering over the screen like she was fighting a memory. "They're targeting you," I said, my voice tight. "Why not call the cops?" Lena looked at me, her eyes hard. "Cops don't catch ghosts. Victor's not leaving prints." Mia piped up, her pencil tapping her log. "What if I hack the group? Find who posted it?" Lena's face softened, just for a second. "Not yet," she said. "But keep that brain sharp." Mia nodded, her eyes glinting with purpose. That afternoon, Theo saw the shadow. He was in the backyard, practicing ninja rolls. When he froze, his flashlight pointed at the fence. "Dad," he yelled, sprinting inside. "There's a ninja." I ran out, Lena behind me, her pistol tucked under her jacket. The yard was empty, the sensors silent, but Theo pointed to the corner, where the fence met the oak. "He was there," he said, his voice trembling. "Tall, with a hat." Lena knelt, her flashlight sweeping the ground. A cigarette, but fresh, not ours, lay in the dirt. She bagged it, her movements precise. "He's getting bold," she said, her voice low. Theo clutched his mask, his eyes wide. "Was it the knife guy?" Lena didn't lie. "Maybe," she said, ruffling his hair. "But we're faster." The cigarette but haunted me. It wasn't just evidence. It was a taunt, proof Victor could stand in our yard, watch our kids, and walk away. I thought about Theo, his small body rigid with fear, his mask a flimsy shield. I thought about Mia, her war log now a battle plan, her childhood slipping away. I thought about Lena, her calm facade for a war she'd never stopped fighting. "We need to end this," I told her that night, the garage dim, her laptop glowing. She didn't look up. "We will," she said, her fingers typing code I couldn't read. But not by chasing shadows. The next morning, another notice arrived, pinned to the mailbox. * unauthorized surveillance equipment detected. Cease immediately. * the irony burned. Lena taped it to her map, her eyes narrowing. "He's mocking us," she said. I thought about Karen, her frozen face, the sedan's tinted windows, Delaney's avoidance. Willow Creek was a trap, and we were the bait. Mia spent the day sketching the fence line, noting blind spots. Theo patrolled with his flashlight, whispering clear to no one. Lena worked in silence, her hands steady but her eyes distant, like she was back in Kabul, standing over Victor's broken body, wondering if she'd made the right call. I checked the locks, then checked them again. The house was a fortress, but it felt like a cage. Lena's story about Kabul changed the air in the house. It wasn't just the threat of Victor Crane anymore, it was the ghost of her past, standing between us. I looked at her differently, not with doubt, but with distance, like I was seeing the edges of a woman I'd never fully known. She felt it, too, her glances shorter, her words clipped, like she was guarding something fragile. Mia and Theo sensed the shift, their questions sharper, their trust wobbling. The house was still a fortress, but it was fracturing and Victor was the wedge. The seventh day brought a new violation notice, pinned to the front door with a nail. Asterisk unauthorized exterior modifications. Remove sensors immediately. Asterisk the sensors were Nate's, hidden in the bushes, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking. Lena read the notice, her face a mask, then taped it to her map. He's inside our perimeter, she said, her voice low. He knows our defenses. I wanted to scream, to tear the notice down, but Mia beat me to it, her war log open, her pencil flying. I'll map the blind spots, she said, her voice steady but her hands trembling. Theo watched, his ninja mask on, his flashlight beam flickering. I'll find the ninja, he said, like it was a game. I hugged them, my chest tight, but my eyes were on Lena, her hands calibrating a signal jammer, her focus absolute, like she could outrun her own shadow. That afternoon, I tried to talk to her, the garage dim, the air thick with tension. Lena, I said, my voice soft, you don't have to do this alone. She didn't look up, her fingers stripping a wire. I'm not alone, she said, but it felt like a lie. You're shutting me out, I said, louder than I meant. You're shutting the kids out. We're in this too. She stopped, her hands hovering, her eyes meeting mine, raw and tired. You think I want this? She said, her voice cracking. I left that life, Jack. I buried it, but Victor dug it up, and now I have to finish it. I stepped closer, my voice low. Then let me help. Tell me what you need. She looked away, her jaw tight. I need you to trust me, she said. Even when I can't explain. I nodded, but the distance between us grew, a crack I couldn't bridge. That night, Mia came to me, her war log clutched to her chest. Dad, she said, her voice small, is Mom okay? I hesitated, the weight of Lena's story pressing against me. She's strong, I said, my voice soft. But she's carrying a lot. Mia nodded, her eyes old beyond her years. She's scared, she said, not a question. I hugged her, my throat tight, but I didn't answer. Theo overheard, his ninja mask on, his flashlight sweeping the room. Mom's a superhero, he said, but his voice wobbled, like he was trying to convince himself. I wanted to protect them, to shield them from Victor, from Lena's past, from the truth that our family was fraying. The next morning, Nate showed up, his truck loaded with more gear, encrypted radios, a drone detector, a crate of batteries. We're going dark, he said, his grin forced. Lena nodded, unpacking the radios, her hands steady but her eyes distant. Mia helped, her war log now a catalog of frequencies. Radio 1, 462.5625 MHz. Backup 467.7125. Theo tested the radios, whispering Ninja 1, clear, into the mic. I watched, my heart heavy, knowing they were adapting to a war they shouldn't have to fight. What's the endgame? I asked Lena, the garage quiet, the kids upstairs. She looked at me, her eyes hard. We bait him, she said. Give him what he thinks he wants, then flip the trap. I nodded, but my mind was on Mia's question, Theo's wobbling voice, the distance in Lena's eyes. The house was a fortress, but it was crumbling and Victor was the one holding the hammer. That afternoon, a new flyer appeared, taped to every mailbox on the street. Asterisk emergency HOA meeting. Safety concerns. All residents required. Asterisk a handwritten note was scrawled on ours. Your wife's secrets endanger us all. Lena read it, her face unreadable, then taped it to her map. He's escalating, she said. I thought about Mia's war log, Theo's ninja mask, the cigarette but silent threat. Victor wasn't just watching. He was rewriting our place in Willow Creek, turning neighbors into enemies. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena didn't sleep. She sat by the war table, the flyer in her hand, waiting for the next move. The 8th day hit like a punch we didn't see coming. Lena had been up all night, her war table a maze of maps and sensors, her laptop running scans I couldn't follow. Mia and Theo were in the living room, Mia sketching signal patterns, Theo practicing ninja rolls, his flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. I was in the kitchen, making coffee, trying to pretend we were still a normal family. Then the doorbell rang, a single chime that froze us all. Lena was there in seconds, her pistol tucked under her jacket, her eyes scanning the peephole. No one, she said, her voice low. She opened the door, slow, deliberate, and found a package on the mat, brown paper, no string, just a USB drive and a note. Play me. I wanted to smash it, to throw it in the trash, but Lena's face was stone. Not here, she said, grabbing an air-gapped laptop from the garage, one she kept in a Faraday sleeve, battery dead, hardwired off-grid. We crowded into the garage, the air thick with tension, the kids watching from the doorway. Lena plugged in the drive, her hands steady, and a video loaded, grainy, night vision, the kind that makes your skin crawl. It showed Lena, years ago, in a desert, barking orders, her tactical vest streaked with dust. Victor was beside her, bleeding, screaming, "You left me." The footage cut to our house, Mia sleeping, her rocket schematics on the wall, Theo in his ninja mask, curled in bed, me, pouring coffee, oblivious. A voice, Victor's, cold and hollow, "You can't outrun your shadow." The screen went black, the silence deafening. Mia gasped, her war log falling to the floor. Theo clutched his mask, his eyes wide. I felt my knees buckle, the bat in my hand useless. Lena ejected the drive, crushed it under her boot, the crack echoing like a gunshot. He's not just after me, she said, her voice flat, like she was stating a fact. He's after my legacy. I grabbed her arm, my voice shaking. Our kids, Lena. He's watching our kids. She didn't flinch, just looked at me, her eyes a mix of fire and ice. I know, she said. And he's going to regret it. The video broke something in us. Mia stopped sketching, her war log untouched, her eyes distant, like she was calculating escape routes. Theo's ninja patrol slowed, his flashlight beam weaker, his clear whispers fading. I couldn't look at Lena without seeing her in that desert, leaving a man to bleed, and it scared me not because I doubted her, but because I saw how deep her scars ran. We need to call the cops, I said, the garage dim, the crushed drive at our feet. Lena shook her head. Cops can't touch him. He's a ghost. I slammed my fist on the table, the tools rattling. Then what, Lena? We just wait. She looked at me, her voice low. We bait him. Give him what he thinks he wants, then end it. The plan was simple but insane. Lena rigged a decoy, a fake camera in the backyard, blinking red, wired to a loop of domestic noise. Footsteps, a TV hum, Mia's voice calling for dinner. Mia helped, soldering wires like it was a science project, her hands steady but her eyes haunted. Theo painted the camera black, calling it Ninja Trap 2.0. Nate brought a signal booster, his grin forced, his eyes flicking to the kids. You sure about this? He asked Lena. She nodded, her hands calibrating the loop. He's watching for patterns, she said. We give him one, then break it. That night we waited, the house dark, the decoy blinking. At 3 a.m., the feed caught a shadow, tall, deliberate, disabling the camera with a single cut. Lena watched the footage, frame by frame, her face unreadable. "That's him," she said. "He's close." But he left something behind, another Polaroid, pinned to the fence, showing Mia at school, launching a rocket, taken from the bleachers. On the back, "She's brighter than you think." I grabbed my keys, ready to storm Karen's house, to burn Willow Creek down. Lena stopped me, her grip iron. "He wants you to lose it," she said. "Don't." I nodded, but my hands shook, the Polaroids weighed a chain around my heart. The next morning, Mia didn't go to school. She sat in the garage, her war log open, sketching the Polaroid's angle, noting the bleachers' shadows. Theo stayed close, his ninja mask on, his flashlight dim. Lena worked in silence, her hands steady but her eyes distant, like she was back in Kabul, dragging Victor to cover, knowing she'd leave him behind. I thought about the video, the way it stripped us bare, and wondered if we'd ever be whole again. The house was a fortress, but it was bleeding and Victor was the one holding the knife. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena didn't sleep. She sat by the war table, the Polaroid in her hand, waiting for the trap to spring. The decoy camera was supposed to be our first win, a crack in Victor Crane's shadow. But on the 9th day, it crumbled, and so did we. Lena had watched the footage of Victor disabling it, her eyes locked on his silhouette, her hands steady but her jaw tight. "He took the bait," she'd said, but her voice carried a weight I didn't trust. The Polaroid he left, Mia launching her rocket, "She's brighter than you think," scrawled on the back, had burned a hole in my chest. I couldn't look at Mia without seeing her through Victor's lens, a target in a game we hadn't chosen. Theo's ninja patrols had slowed, his flashlight dim, his clear whispers barely audible. The house was a fortress, but it felt like a trap, and Victor was the one setting the springs. The next hit came at dawn. Theo found it, his small body frozen on the porch, his ninja mask clutched in his hands. The mask was torn, its black fabric sliced clean across the eyes, a note pinned to it with a safety pin. "Even ninjas can't hide." Theo didn't cry, didn't run. He just stood there, his flashlight dangling, his face pale, like the mask was his skin and Victor had cut it. I grabbed him, my arms shaking, and carried him inside, the bat in my other hand useless. Lena was there in seconds, her pistol tucked under her jacket, her eyes sweeping the porch. She picked up the mask, her fingers tracing the cut, and I saw something break in her, not fear, not anger, but guilt, raw and jagged. "He's targeting them," she said, her voice low, like she was confessing. "Because of me. I lost it. We're calling the cops," I said, my voice loud, the garage door slamming behind us. "This isn't a game, Lena. He's after our kids." She turned, her eyes steel, but her hands trembled, just for a second. "Cops can't touch him," she said, her voice steady but strained. "He's a ghost, Jack. No prints, no traces." "You think a patrol car scares him?" I slammed my fist on the war table, the maps rattling. "Then what? We just let him carve up Theo's mask? Wait for him to carve up Theo." Mia overheard, her war log open, her pencil frozen. Theo clung to my leg, his flashlight off, his voice small. "I don't want to be a ninja anymore." Lena knelt, her hands gentle but her eyes hard. "You don't have to," she said, pulling him close. "But I need you to be brave." Theo nodded, but his eyes were wet, and I felt my heart crack. The fight didn't end there. I followed Lena to the garage, the air thick with solder and rage. "You're not telling me everything," I said, my voice low, shaking. "You knew he'd go for the kids, didn't you?" She stopped, her hands hovering over a signal jammer, her back to me. "I didn't know," she said, her voice quiet, like it hurt to admit. "But I should have. Victor doesn't just want me. He wants what I built, our family, our life. He wants to burn it down." I stepped closer, my hands balled into fists. "Then let me in, Lena. Stop treating me like a civilian." She turned, her eyes raw, her voice breaking. "You are a civilian, Jack. And I thank God for that every day." Because if you were like me, you'd know what it costs to fight him. The words hit like a slap, and I stood there, the distance between us a chasm I couldn't cross. That afternoon, Nate brought news that shifted the game. He'd been at the HOA office, dropping off a permit for his shed, when he overheard Karen talking to a man tall, quiet, cap low over his eyes. He mentioned a signal drop at the old warehouse, Nate said, his voice low, his Red Bull can sweating in his hand. Sounded like code. Karen nodded like she knew. Lena's eyes narrowed, her hands taping a new pin to the map. That's Victor's dead drop, she said. He's using her as a courier. I grabbed my keys, my pulse spiking. I'm going to that warehouse, I said. Lena grabbed my arm, her grip iron. Not yet, she said. We need to know his pattern first. I yanked free, my voice loud. He's cutting up our kid's mask, Lena. There's no pattern, just him. She didn't flinch, just looked at me, her eyes steady. There's always a pattern, she said. And I'll find it. Mia spent the day in her room, her war log untouched, her rocket schematics gathering dust. Theo stayed close, his flashlight off, his torn mask folded in his pocket like a scar. Lena worked in the garage, her hands steady but her eyes distant, like she was back in Kabul, dragging Victor to cover, knowing she'd leave him behind. I thought about Nate's news, Karen's nod, the warehouse's shadow. Willow Creek wasn't a neighborhood anymore, it was a battlefield, and we were losing ground. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena didn't sleep. She sat by the war table, the torn mask in her hand, waiting for Victor to make his next move. The 10th day brought fire. Not our house, not yet, but close enough to feel the heat. It was 11 a.m., Mia at school, Theo at soccer, me at work, Lena in the garage, when the blast shook Willow Creek. A low, hollow thud, not a bomb but a charge, precise, military, coming from Mr. Delaney's backyard, 2 doors down. I got the call from Nate, his voice tight. Get home, Jack. It's bad. I sped back, my heart pounding, the bat on the passenger seat. The street was chaos, neighbors in robes, phones up, sirens wailing. Delaney's shed was a smoldering wreck, its tin roof twisted like a crushed can, the air thick with ash and diesel. Lena was already there, her jacket singed, her pistol hidden, but her eyes sharp. Flash charge, she said, her voice low, like she was naming a snake. Not meant to kill, meant to warn. Delaney stood on his lawn, his face pale, his hose useless in his hand. It just went off, he stammered, avoiding my eyes. I didn't see anything. Lena knelt by the shed, her flashlight sweeping the debris, and found a metal shard, etched with a single word, proximity. She pocketed it, her face unreadable, but I saw her hands clench, a crack in her control. He's marking territory, she said. This was for us. I grabbed her arm, my voice shaking. He could have killed someone, Lena. This isn't a game. She didn't flinch, just looked at me, her eyes hard. It's not a game, she said. It's a signal. Karen was there, clipboard in hand, her smile gone, her eyes flicking to Lena like she was measuring a threat. She handed out flyers, her voice loud. Emergency HOA meeting. 8 p.m. Discuss recent safety violations. A handwritten note was scrawled on ours, delivered to our mailbox. Your actions endanger us all. Lena read it, her face stone, then taped it to her map. He's using her to isolate us, she said, turning the neighborhood into his weapon. I thought about Delaney's avoidance, the sedan's tinted windows, the cigarette but silent threat. What if someone's helping him? I asked. Lena nodded, her eyes narrowing. Someone is. That afternoon, Mia found the bug. She was in her room, reorganizing her rocket schematics, when she noticed a hum, faint, coming from her desk lamp. She unscrewed the base, her hands steady, and pulled out a tiny device, no bigger than a button, its red light blinking. It's a mic, she said, her voice calm but her eyes wide, handing it to Lena. Lena cracked it open, her knife precise, and studied the chip inside. Custom built, she said. He's not just watching, he's listening. Theo overheard, his torn mask in his pocket, his flashlight off. He heard me say, "Clear?" he asked, his voice small. Lena knelt, her voice soft but firm. He heard a ninja, she said. And ninjas don't quit. Theo nodded, but his eyes were wet, and I felt my heart twist. The bug changed everything. The house wasn't just a stage, it was a microphone, every word a potential betrayal. I caught myself whispering, pausing before speaking, wondering if Victor was listening to my heartbeat. Mia stopped talking about rockets, her war log now a catalog of threats. Mic, desk lamp, 1,600 hours. Theo's ninja patrol stopped, his flashlight dim, his clear gone. Lena worked in silence, her hands steady but her eyes distant, like she was back in Kabul, hearing Victor's screams as she called the evac. I thought about the blast, the shards etched word, Karen's flyer. Willow Creek was a minefield, and we were the ones stepping on it. That night, I confronted Lena, the garage dark, the bug on the war table. "We're out of time," I said, my voice low. "He's blowing up sheds, bugging our house. We need help." She looked at me, her eyes tired but sharp. "Help means exposure," she said. "Victor thrives on chaos. We bring in cops, he disappears, and we're still his." I stepped closer, my voice shaking. "Then what, Lena?" "We let him blow us up next." She didn't answer, just turned back to her map, her hands tracing a red pin near the warehouse. The house was a fortress, but it was burning and Victor was the one holding the match. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena didn't sleep. She sat by the war table, the bug in her hand, waiting for the next explosion. The blast at Delaney's had pushed us over the edge. On the 11th day, Lena declared we were going dark, no Wi-Fi, no phones, no electronics that could be hacked. The house was a black hole, its signals cut, its lights dimmed, its locks manual. Lena set up hardwired comms, encrypted radios Nate brought, their static hum the only sound in the silence. "We're invisible now," she said, her voice steady but her eyes haunted, like she knew invisibility came at a cost. Mia and Theo adapted, their war log and ninja mask replaced by new roles, Mia as lookout, Theo as runner, their small bodies moving with a purpose that broke my heart. Lena turned the garage into a training ground, teaching the kids survival basics, how to spot a tail, how to signal without words, how to hide in plain sight. Mia listened, her eyes sharp, her hands steady as she practiced hand signals. Stop, move, clear. Theo mimicked her, his flashlight off, his torn mask folded in his pocket like a relic. "What if the ninja finds us?" he asked, his voice small. Lena knelt, her voice soft but firm. "Then we find him first," she said, ruffling his hair. I watched, my chest tight, knowing they were becoming soldiers in a war they shouldn't have to fight. Nate brought a lead that same afternoon, his truck parked a block away, his Red Bull can sweating in his hand. "Found something," he said, his voice low, leading us to an abandoned lot behind the HOA office. Hidden in the weeds was a crate, rusted but locked, its contents a shadow of Victor's game, burner phones, signal jammers, a map of Willow Creek with our house circled in red. Lena opened it, her hands steady, and found a note. "You can't hide what I already see." She pocketed it, her face unreadable, but I saw her shoulders tense, a crack in her armor. "He's staging," she said. "This is his forward base." I grabbed the map, my pulse spiking. "Then we hit it," I said. Lena shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "We need him to think he's winning." The crate changed the game. It wasn't just proof Victor was close, it was proof he was embedded, his roots deep in Willow Creek soil. I thought about Karen's flyers, Delaney's avoidance, the sedan's tinted windows. "Who's helping him?" I asked Lena, the garage dim, the crate's map on the war table. She didn't answer, just traced a red pin near the warehouse. Someone who knows us, she said, her voice low. Someone we've trusted. I thought about Nate, his gear, his leads, his easy grin. I hated myself for it, but the doubt was there, a splinter I couldn't pull. That night, Mia took watch, her eyes scanning the street from the attic window, her war log open, her pencil noting shadows. Car, no plates, 2,300 hours. Theo ran messages, his small feet silent, his torn mask a reminder of what we'd lost. Lena worked in the garage, her hands calibrating a drone detector, her eyes distant, like she was back in Kabul, calling the evac, leaving Victor behind. I stood guard, the bat in my hand, my heart pounding, wondering if I could protect them from a ghost. The house was a fortress, but it was silent, and Victor was the one breaking the quiet. I checked the locks, then checked them again. Lena didn't sleep. She sat by the war table, the crate's note in her hand, waiting for the trap to spring. The condemned lot was a graveyard of concrete and steel, its air thick with ash and rot. On the 14th day, we moved at 3 a.m., Lena leading, her pistol drawn, her flashlight beam a scalpel in the dark. I followed, not to protect, but to witness, my bat a useless weight, my heart pounding like a war drum. Nate stayed with Mia and Theo, his truck a block away, his comms silent. The lot was silent, too, its shadows deep, its beams charred, like our house after Victor's first strike. Lena didn't blink, her steps deliberate, her eyes scanning angles I couldn't see. He's here, she whispered, her voice low, like she was naming a ghost. The building was gutted, its walls crumbling, its floor littered with debris. Lena's light swept the dark, slow, steady, until it landed on a chair, and in it, Victor Crane. He was waiting, calm, casual, a folder on his lap like he was prepping a briefing. "Lena," he said, his voice smooth, like he was greeting an old friend. "You came." She didn't flinch, her pistol raised, her flashlight steady. "You burned my life," she said, her voice ice. He stood, his eyes glinting, his smirk faint but sharp. "You burned mine first," he said. "Kabul. You left me to bleed, to rot, to vanish." I stepped closer, my bat raised, but Lena's hand stopped me, her grip iron. "This wasn't mine to fight." "You broke protocol," Lena said, her voice steady but laced with pain. "You compromised the team." "I made the call." Victor laughed, bitter, his hands open like he was offering peace. "You made me the villain," he said. "They called you the hero, the analyst who saved the day. I was the ghost, erased, forgotten. And now you're the mom, the myth, with a family to lose." He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "I watched them, Lena. Mia's rockets, Theo's ninja games, Jack's coffee. I know what you built, and I'll take it." Lena's pistol didn't waver, but her eyes flickered, a crack in her armor. "You stalked my kids," she said. "You crossed the line." Victor didn't flinch, his smirk growing. "It was always personal," he said. She struck. One motion, fluid, lethal, and Victor was airborne, pinned to a beam, his boots scraping the floor, her forearm across his throat. I tensed, my bat raised, but Lena's eyes were fire, her voice a hiss. "You're done," she said. Victor laughed, his voice strained. "You won't kill me," he said. "That's not what they trained you for." She didn't speak, just dropped him, hard, his body crumpling. She pulled a knife, its blade glinting, and I froze, my breath caught. But she didn't stab. She slashed a tarp behind him, revealing a cache, files, photos, surveillance logs, burn maps, every HOA notice, images of Mia, Theo, me. Lena didn't look shocked. She looked complete, like she'd found the final piece of a puzzle. Victor coughed, his lip bloody, his eyes still sharp. "I watched everything," he said, nodding toward me. "He never asked what made you dangerous. He just assumed he could protect you." I stepped forward, my bat heavy, my voice low. "He's not the one you should worry about," I said. Lena's eyes met mine, a flicker of pride, then turned back to Victor. You're going to prison, she said, her voice flat. You'll tell them everything. The condemned lot was a graveyard of concrete and steel, its air thick with ash and rot. On the 14th day, we moved at 3 a.m., Lena leading, her pistol drawn, her flashlight beam a scalpel in the dark. I followed, not to protect, but to witness, my bat a useless weight, my heart pounding like a war drum. Nate stayed with Mia and Theo, his truck a block away, his comms silent. The lot was silent, too, its shadows deep, its beams charred, like our house after Victor's first strike. Lena didn't blink, her steps deliberate, her eyes scanning angles I couldn't see. He's here, she whispered, her voice low, like she was naming a ghost. The building was gutted, its walls crumbling, its floor littered with debris. Lena's light swept the dark, slow, steady, until it landed on a chair, and in it, Victor Crane. He was waiting, calm, casual, a folder on his lap like he was prepping a briefing. Lena, he said, his voice smooth, like he was greeting an old friend. You came. She didn't flinch, her pistol raised, her flashlight steady. You burned my life, she said, her voice ice. He stood, his eyes glinting, his smirk faint but sharp. You burned mine first, he said. Cobble. You left me to bleed, to rot, to vanish. I stepped closer, my bat raised, but Lena's hand stopped me, her grip iron. This wasn't mine to fight. You broke protocol, Lena said, her voice steady but laced with pain. You compromised the team. I made the call. Victor laughed, bitter, his hands open like he was offering peace. You made me the villain, he said. They called you the hero, the analyst who saved the day. I was the ghost, erased, forgotten. And now you're the mom, the myth, with a family to lose. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. I watched them, Lena. Mia's rockets, Theo's ninja games, Jack's coffee. I know what you built, and I'll take it. Lena's pistol didn't waver, but her eyes flickered, a crack in her armor. You stalked my kids, she said. You crossed the line. Victor didn't flinch, his smirk growing. It was always personal, he said. She struck. One motion, fluid, lethal, and Victor was airborne, pinned to a beam, his boots scraping the floor, her forearm across his throat. I tensed, my bat raised, but Lena's eyes were fire, her voice a hiss. You're done, she said. Victor laughed, his voice strained. You won't kill me, he said. That's not what they trained you for. She didn't speak, just dropped him, hard, his body crumpling. She pulled a knife, its blade glinting, and I froze, my breath caught. But she didn't stab. She slashed a tarp behind him, revealing a cache files, photos, surveillance logs, burn maps, every HOA notice, images of Mia, Theo, me. Lena didn't look shocked. She looked complete, like she'd found the final piece of a puzzle. Victor coughed, his lip bloody, his eyes still sharp. I watched everything, he said, nodding toward me. He never asked what made you dangerous. He just assumed he could protect you. I stepped forward, my bat heavy, my voice low. He's not the one you should worry about, I said. Lena's eyes met mine, a flicker of pride, then turned back to Victor. You're going to prison, she said, her voice flat. You'll tell them everything, every camera, every contact, every message. Victor's smirk faded, his eyes narrowing. You think the system that made you cares about me? He asked. Lena stared him down, her knife steady. I'm not the one who needs protecting anymore, she said. She clicked a signal jammer, its hum killing every red light in the room. The cameras died, their feeds black, Victor's empire collapsing in silence. Lena turned, started walking past me, then stopped at the doorway. You wanted my legacy, Victor, she said, looking over her shoulder. Mine walks beside me. Yours is ash. We left, the lot silent, the sun rising, its light cold but clean. Victor was alive, zip-tied, his files in Lena's hands, his game over. But the weight of his words lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. The house was a fortress, But it was ours again, and Victor was the one left in the dark. The condemned lot was a graveyard of concrete and steel, its air thick with ash and rot. On the 14th day, we moved at 3 a.m., Lena leading, her pistol drawn, her flashlight beam a scalpel in the dark. I followed, not to protect, but to witness, my bat a useless weight, my heart pounding like a war drum. Nate stayed with Mia and Theo, his truck a block away, his comms silent. The lot was silent, too, its shadows deep, its beams charred, like our house after Victor's first strike. Lena didn't blink, her steps deliberate, her eyes scanning angles I couldn't see. "He's here," she whispered, her voice low, like she was naming a ghost. The building was gutted, its walls crumbling, its floor littered with debris. Lena's light swept the dark, slow, steady, until it landed on a chair, and in it, Victor Crane. He was waiting, calm, casual, a folder on his lap like he was prepping a briefing. "Lena," he said, his voice smooth, like he was greeting an old friend. "You came." She didn't flinch, her pistol raised, her flashlight steady. "You burned my life," she said, her voice ice. He stood, his eyes glinting, his smirk faint but sharp. "You burned mine first," he said. "Cobble. You left me to bleed, to rot, to vanish." I stepped closer, my bat raised, but Lena's hand stopped me, her grip iron. "This wasn't mine to fight." "You broke protocol," Lena said, her voice steady but laced with pain. "You compromised the team." "I made the call." Victor laughed, bitter, his hands open like he was offering peace. "You made me the villain," he said. "They called you the hero, the analyst who saved the day. I was the ghost, erased, forgotten. And now you're the mom, the myth, with a family to lose." He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "I watched them, Lena. Mia's rockets, Theo's ninja games, Jack's coffee. I know what you built, and I'll take it." Lena's pistol didn't waver, but her eyes flickered, a crack in her armor. "You stalked my kids," she said. "You crossed the line." Victor didn't flinch, his smirk growing. "It was always personal," he said. She struck. One motion, fluid, lethal, and Victor was airborne, pinned to a beam, his boots scraping the floor, her forearm across his throat. I tensed, my bat raised, but Lena's eyes were fire, her voice a hiss. "You're done," she said. Victor laughed, his voice strained. "You won't kill me," he said. "That's not what they trained you for." She didn't speak, just dropped him, hard, his body crumpling. She pulled a knife, its blade glinting, and I froze, my breath caught. But she didn't stab. She slashed a tarp behind him, revealing a cache files, photos, surveillance logs, burn maps, every HOA notice, images of Mia, Theo, me. Lena didn't look shocked. She looked complete, like she'd found the final piece of a puzzle. Victor coughed, his lip bloody, his eyes still sharp. "I watched everything," he said, nodding toward me. "He never asked what made you dangerous. He just assumed he could protect you." I stepped forward, my bat heavy, my voice low. "He's not the one you should worry about," I said. Lena's eyes met mine, a flicker of pride, then turned back to Victor. "You're going to prison," she said, her voice flat. "You'll tell them everything, every camera, every contact, every message." Victor's smirk faded, his eyes narrowing. "You think the system that made you cares about me?" he asked. Lena stared him down, her knife steady. "I'm not the one who needs protecting anymore," she said. She clicked a signal jammer, its hum killing every red light in the room. The cameras died, their feeds black, Victor's empire collapsing in silence. Lena turned, started walking past me, then stopped at the doorway. "You wanted my legacy, Victor," she said, looking over her shoulder. "Mine walks beside me. Yours is ash." We left, the lot silent, the sun rising, its light cold but clean. Victor was alive, zip-tied, his files in Lena's hands, his game over. But the weight of his words lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. The house was a fortress, But it was ours again, and Victor was the one left in the dark. The 15th day was quiet, but not the kind that screams trouble. It was the quiet of aftermath, of wounds closing, of a house learning to breathe again. Victor Crane was gone, handed to the authorities with his files, his cameras, his notes, a ghost made flesh, his legacy ash, just as Lena promised. The HOA collapsed, Karen resigning in a flurry of excuses, her clipboard abandoned, her car no longer idling. Willow Creek was a neighborhood again, its lawns clipped, its mailboxes flagged down, but the scars remained, in us and in the street. We didn't rebuild the house the same way. Lena wanted open sightlines, no walls where windows could be, no locks where trust should live. I wanted fewer blind spots, fewer corners for shadows to hide. Mia asked for a skylight in her room, so I always know what's above me, she said, her war log now a journal of rocket designs, its pages softer, its lines curved. Theo wanted a treehouse, for ninja missions, he said, his torn mask painted blue, its cuts patched with tape, a badge of survival. Nate stayed, replacing the fence, rewiring the sensors, upgrading the lights to blind a satellite, he said, his grin real again. He was running for HOA president, and I promised to vote twice. Already forged your ballot, he said, winking. Lena didn't talk about Victor, but I caught her pausing at windows, at thresholds, not scanning, not flinching, just ready, like she knew silence wasn't safety, just the pause before the next sound. I asked her once, late, after the kids were asleep, why she didn't kill him, why she let him live. She didn't answer at first, just poured tea, leaned on the counter, her eyes distant, like she was waiting for a detonation that never came. Because legacy isn't about what survives the fire, she said finally, her voice soft, her eyes on Mia's door. It's about what walks out of it. I nodded, the weight of her words settling, a truth I hadn't seen until now. Mia didn't whisper strategies anymore. She designed gardens, their beds mapped like defenses, their flowers labeled with entry points, roses, north, block line of sight. A well-defended garden grows no weeds, she said, her smile small but real. Theo trained his ninja skills on tripwires, his flashlight bright, his clear a song again. I watched them, my heart full but heavy, knowing they'd seen too much, learned too much, but survived it. Lena taught them both to check the locks, not out of fear, but out of habit, a lesson in readiness, not paranoia. The neighbors still whispered, about the blast, about Lena, about us. They asked if she stayed calm, if she got justice, if she held back. They thought they knew the answer. They didn't. Justice wasn't loud. It was letting Victor live long enough to see he'd lost. But one neighbor worried me, Delaney, the retiree who'd avoided us, who'd stood by his smoldering shed, who now watched us from his porch, his eyes too sharp, his waves too slow. Lena noticed, too, her hand brushing the scar on her wrist, the one from Kabul, the one she never explained. He's too quiet, she said, her voice low. Quiet's dangerous. I nodded, my gut twisting, knowing we'd watch him back. The house was ours again, its walls softer, its light brighter. But the Polaroids, the cigarette, but the torn mask, they lingered, not as threats, but as reminders. We'd won, but victory wasn't a clean line. It was a garden, a treehouse, a family that walked out of the fire. I stood outside at night, not to keep danger out, but to make sure my family never had to see it coming. The stars were bright, the street silent, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't check the locks. Lena did, her steps quiet, her eyes steady, her legacy beside her. The weeks after Victor's fall were a fragile piece, like the calm after a storm when you're still waiting for the next gust. Willow Creek settled, its lawns clipped, its mailboxes flagged down, its whispers softer, but never gone. The HOA was a ghost, its office shuttered, its flyers recycled, Karen's name a cautionary tale. We were a family again, not just survivors, but something stronger, forged in the fire we'd walked through. Mia's gardens bloomed, their roses a quiet defense. Theo's treehouse stood tall, its ladder a ninja's path. Lena's war table was gone, replaced by a desk for her cybersecurity work, but her eyes still scanned the street, her hands still checked the locks. I watched them, my heart full, my fear a shadow I couldn't shake. The final piece came on a Tuesday, quiet, unannounced, like Victor's first strike. Mia found it in the mailbox, a plain envelope, no postmark, no name, just a single photo inside, a black and white shot of our house, taken from the lot where Victor fell, its windows glowing, its door open. On the back, in tight, mechanical script, he wasn't alone. Mia handed it to Lena, her eyes sharp, but her hands steady, her war log a memory she didn't need anymore. Lena read it, her face unreadable, then taped it to her desk, a new pin in a map she hadn't drawn. "It's not over," she said, her voice low, like she was naming a new ghost. I thought about Delaney, his sharp eyes, his slow waves, his shed's smoldering ruin. I thought about Nate, his gear, his leads, his grin that sometimes felt too easy. I thought about Karen, her clipboard, her silence, her absence. "Who's helping him?" I asked, the garage dim, the photo on the desk. Lena didn't answer, just traced the photo's edges, her fingers steady but her eyes distant, like she was back in Kabul, hearing Victor's screams, knowing she'd missed something. "Someone close," she said finally, her voice a whisper. "Someone we've seen." That night I stood outside, the stars bright, the street silent. Lena joined me, her hand brushing mine, her scar a reminder of the fire she'd walked through. "We'll find them," she said, her voice soft but firm. I nodded, my heart heavy, knowing the fight wasn't over, just paused. Mia and Theo slept, their dreams softer, their scars fading. The house was ours, its light a beacon, its locks a promise. But the photo's words lingered, a shadow we couldn't shake. We'd won, but victory was a garden, not a wall, and gardens need watching. I didn't check the locks. Lena did, her steps quiet, her eyes steady, her legacy beside her, ready for the next shadow to step into the light.